Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. حياكم الله. مرحبا بكم. مساكم الله بخير. Warm welcome to you all, and alhamdulillah, today, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, we are going to be studying a book called DaaruSsunnah, which was written by Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, which is a very fundamental book for Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. A very useful book in terms of points and proofs and manhaj related evidences against the people of heresy and doubt. A book that is renownedly known throughout Sunni thought and studies academically, and also, you know, in terms of beginner levels. And today, bi'idhnillah, we're going to be going into the first part, the muqaddamah, an introduction, or I'm going to call it the introduction for now, in order to acquaint ourselves with who Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, is. Likewise, the works of this very great book, and the explanation is by Shaykh Rabi' al-Madkhali, hafidhahullah ta'ala. So, we'll start with the reading, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. And as you know, when we start, we say Bismillah, we say in the name of Allah, when we carry out these forms of ibadah, you know, as we study together, you know, it's not just me teaching you, it's me learning as well, because the last time I did this book was just before COVID, but we didn't finish it. I don't know if anyone was here them times there. Yeah, but the last time we did it was literally just before COVID, and we stopped around Khalq al-Quran. That was the point we stopped, and we never happened to have finished it. SubhanAllah. So it goes to show the great importance of trying to attend the masjid for lessons, durus, because you just don't know. Something could happen. You know, like I said before, I'm not a conspiracist, but if a war happens, there'll be no lessons and there's no, God knows what, dawah table. We'll be stuck in our houses like COVID. Yeah? Or in bunkers, you know, Allah knows best. La qadr Allah. Obviously, we hope that, you know, isn't decreed in a sense where the masjid is, you know, locked off for the people. But the reality stands. Yeah, the reality stands. It could come to an end. That's why we as Muslims, we have to make use of the time we have when it comes to studying these books. Yeah, together. So when we say Bismillah, we say this ba here is the ba al-isti'ana. We're seeking assistance in Allah in what we're doing. You know, Bismillah, in the name of Allah I read. Bismillah, in the name of Allah I write. Bismillah, in the name of Allah I listen, I learn. This is what Bismillah incorporates. Yeah? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And we did this in our study of Qawa'id al-Arba', the four principles, for those that remember. And this is important because when we say Bismillah, I know it's something very basic, but it's important to understand why we say it. The reason why is because we are seeking assistance in Allah, tabarak wa ta'ala, in what we do. Yeah? And also it shows what? Tawakkul, reliance on Allah, tabarak wa ta'ala. Because we need to seek Allah's help when we carry out these acts of ibadah. We can't do it on our own. We're in need of Allah's help, because we're helpless before Him. So it shows a tawakkul, which is reliance, and also ikhlas, sincerity. Because in truth, we're unable to do it except by what Allah has allowed us to understand and carry out. And obviously that goes back to the ayah in the Quran, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship, and you alone we seek assistance in. And I always mention this fa'idah. Allah put fourth ibadah before isti'ana, because not everybody that seeks assistance in Allah, لَيْسَ كُلَّ مَنْ يَسْتَعِينُ بِاللَّهِ يعبد الله ولكن كل من يعبد الله يستعين بالله. Because everybody, generally speaking, that worships Allah seeks assistance in Allah. But not everybody that seeks assistance in Allah worships Allah. You see, oh, Allah help me, Ya Allah this, Ya Allah that. He don't worship Allah. So it's important when we carry out these studies that we worship Allah correctly. And obviously, Iyaka na'budu, this is the righteous deed, which is Tawheed. Sah? Worshipping Allah alone. Is that not a righteous deed? Of course. Barakallahu feekum. So he goes in to say, Amma ba'd, and to proceed. فإن العقيدة الإسلامية, verily this Islamic creed, التي جاءت بها الرسالة كلها هي عظيمة في الإسلام. So undeniably, the Islamic creed, which every prophetic message, that which was sent with, holds a high position in al-Islam. إذ هي أصل الإسلام, for verily it is the very foundation of Islam. وهي مقياس للصحيح الدين من فاسده, and it's the very core foundation of this religion, and a measure, a miqyas, a yardstick by which one's faith is judged by way of, i.e. to be sound or corrupt. ومن هنا اهتم العلماء الإسلام, and from this very point here, the ulama give great importance to what we're going to read. علماء أهل السنة والجماعة ببيان هذه العقيدة. So the scholars of أهل السنة والجماعة, they give precedence to this great creed by way of clarifying it. وشرحها, and explaining it. ودعوة إليها, and calling to it. وذبه عنها, and defending it. ألفوا في ذلك مؤلفات وضمنوا كثيرا منها في ثنايات المؤلفات. So he goes on to say many scholars have written independent works about Islamic creed, belief, and others have included their writings inside, other works. وَلَقَدْ أُلِّفَتْ فِي ذَلِكَ الْكُتُبَ الصَّغِيرَ وَالْكَبِيرَ. And this very book here, in this regard, in this respect, many books have been published, big and small. وَمِنَ الْمُؤَلَّفَاتِ, and from these works, so we're going to go through some of the books in which have been, published and put forth to the people in regards to books of i'tiqad, books of creed. What's Usul Sunnah? It's a book of creed. Yeah. So the first book we have is As-Sunnah. Yeah. A book called As-Sunnah لعبد ibn Ahmed, which is the father of Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah ta'ala. في هذا المجال والسنة للخلال, and also the Sunnah of Khalal. Yeah, as well, yeah. Yeah, صح. والشريعة للآجوري, and also الشريعة, his book الشريعة, which is also a book on Islamic creed. وشرح أصول اعتقاد أهل السنة لللالكائي, and also the book of the explanation of Islamic creed by Imam Lallaka'i. والإبانتين لابن بطة, you have two ibanas, yeah, الكبرى والصغرى, yeah, the big and the small one. وغير ذلك من المؤلفات التي اهتمت بالعقيدة, and likewise from, all of these various different forms of works that have been put forth for, the study of Islamic creed, which, give great importance to this set of belief. لعلم هؤلاء الوجلاء بمنزلتها ومكانتها وإلى المنحرف في شيء منها أو في أصل من أصولها على خطر قد يكون ذلك الانحراف كفرا وقد يكون بدعة والضلالة وقد يكون. So he goes on to say الإبانة الصغرى الكبرى لابن بطة, and other works that showed great concern for that creed. Because these scholars knew the lofty level and the status, the manzila and the makana of these great works, i.e. on writing about this topic of i'tiqad, creed. And they placed importance on writing about it, and they recognized that anyone who deviates, anyone that deviates in an aspect of Islamic creed, or in one of its fundamentals, is in great danger. And this deviance could be disbelief, it could be kufr, it could be innovation, bid'ah, misguidance, or other than that. ومن هنا يجب على طلاب العلم, and from here it's obligatory upon the students of knowledge يهتموا بدراسة هذه العقيدة, that they pay great attention to studying this work of creed. والأصول التي قامت عليها, and also the principles that are built upon it, or somewhat subject around it. ولعلكم تعلمون أيضا أن البخاري قد أورد في صحيحه كتاب الإيمان, and also Bukhari brings about a book in his authentic works, كتاب الإيمان, the book of faith, وكتاب الاعتصام, and the book of holding firm onto the Sunnah, وكتاب التوحيد, the book of monotheism. وهذه كلها عناية بالعقيدة. All of this is in order to preserve and uphold the importance of Islamic creed. والأصول الإسلام, and also the principles regarding Islam. Because you hear people talking about the usul. We're here talking about the qawaid. All of that's going to be mentioned, inshallah. كذلك أبو داود في كتاب السنة من كتابه السنن في آخر الكتابات. Now he goes on to say all of this is of great concern for this creed. Likewise, the fundamentals of Islam. And likewise, Abu Dawood has mentioned the book of Sunnah. And at the end of the book, his book, the collection of prophetic narrations. وَالْمُرَادْ بِالسُّنَّةِ الْعَقِيدَةِ وَالْمَنْهَجِ. This is important now. When we say bis-sunnah, because sometimes you find synonymous sort of terms within Islam. For example, when somebody says the sunnah, sometimes it means the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ, and also it can mean the correct aqidah and also the correct methodology. والمسلم كتاب الإيمان يلتقي مع هذه الكتابات في العقيدة لأهميتها. So, know for sure that the intended meanings of as-sunnah, as I just mentioned, is creed and methodology. Yeah? Creed and methodology. Also, Imam Muslim's book of faith, Kitab al-Iman, in his collection of authentic prophetic narrations, he joins with the aforementioned works which indicates the significance of Islamic creed. Yeah? ومن الرسائل المختصرة التي ألفت لبيان العقيدة هذا الكتاب الذي ألفه الإمام أحمد. And likewise from the very treatises that have been, concisely put and published in order to clarify the correct Islamic creed, is this book in which Imam Ahmed rahmatullah alayh has produced and put forth to the people. Rahimahullah, Imam Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the scholar of the people of Sunnah. ذلك الإمام الجبل العظيم, this great mountain of knowledge. جبل السنة والإيمان, a mountain, in terms of preserving the Sunnah. والإيمان, and faith. والزهد, and abstention away from the dunya. والورع, and piety. والذي كان مقياسا ومحبة يتميز به أهل الحق والسنة من أهل البدعة والضلال. He goes on to say, Imam Ahmed, he was a measure, a miqyas, like a yardstick, as a test by which the people of truth were distinguished from the people of bid'ah or dalal, from the people of innovation and dalal. So he was like basically the way in which you came to know who was Sunni or Salafi at that time. If you were to break it down, words similar to the effect. People say, you put your reliance on one scholar. They were done. These things were done at the time of the Salaf. Yeah? وَلَا يَزَالُ مَنْهَجُهُ مِهْنَةً إِلَى يَوْمِنَا هَذَا. Yes, and likewise, he remains a test, Imam Ahmed rahmatullah alayh. He remains a test for the people up until now, in our times. وَالْأُصُولُ الَّتِي قَارَ عَلَيْهَا وصار عليها لا تزال مهابة للناس إلى الآن فمن شد عنها ولا قد أمتهن بأحمد ومنهجه وعقيدته. So he goes on to say, His way and fundamental beliefs are still a test for the people of today, even to, this day. So whoever diverges from these core beliefs is tested with Ahmed, his methodology and creed. Can Ahmed mihna? Ahmed was a test. الذي ينال منه يدل على ضلاله وخبثه وشره. So the one that belittles Imam Ahmed, this is indicative of his evil misguidance and filth. والذي يعظمه ويقدره كان يعلم الناس أنه من أهل السنة لأنه ما يعظم ويبجل. طيب, so he goes on to say, I won't need to read all the Arabic. And whoever honored and respected him, then the people used to know that the person was a person of Ahlul Sunnah. So if you respected Imam Ahmed, it was as if like you respect the Sunnah. And the reality is that no one honors Ahmed except because of his pure creed and methodology. Ahmed and others such as Shafi'i, Malik, Awza'i, they did gain such, lofty level of nobility in the eyes of the people, except because they held firm to the Islamic creed, respected it, called to it and safeguarded it. So there's many points there. Even from the beginning, the introduction, there's many points of manhaj you could actually extract from that. From them being is that, sometimes you hear the people of innovation say, the people of, Hizbiyah say, you rely upon one scholar. It was done at the time of the Salaf. Sufyan al-Thawri, Imam Malik, Shafi'i, Imam Ahmed, it was done. The people will be tested by way of the scholar. If you loved him, that showed you were a person of Sunnah. So when we say about a particular scholar of this time, don't say it wasn't done by the Salaf, or it wasn't done by those that preceded, i.e. the scholars you also follow too. فَعَرِفُوا قَدْرَ السُّنَّةِ. So know the status of the Sunnah. وَعَرِفُوا أَهْلَهَا. And know its people. وَقَدْرُهُمْ. And likewise, know their status too. وَالْزِمُوا غَرَزَهُمْ وَتَرَسَّمُوا خَطَايَاهُمْ or خَطَاهُمْ. So therefore know the status of the Sunnah and recognize the people of Sunnah and their high position. Stick to their way and tread their path. والله كانوا على هدى مستقيم على كتاب الله وعلى سنة رسوله وعلى طريقة الصحابة الكرام وعلى رأسهم الخلفاء الراشدون. So he goes on to say, for indeed by Allah, they were upon the correct sound methodology and creed. Upright guidance, huda, mustaqim, the way of the noble companions, and at the head of them, the righteous successors, the khulafa ar-rashidun. فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِهَذَا. And upon you all is this, me included. ادرسوا هذا الكتيب الصغير. Study this small book. الذي لعلنا نمر عليه بالسرعة. Inshallah, we're going to pass by it, quickly. لأن هذا النظام الدورات ما ينبغي فيها التوسع والمرور عليها يكفينا إن شاء الله مع بعض الملاحظات حسب المستطاع. So he goes on to say, because obviously this was a lesson at the time in which was put forth to the people. He goes on to say, perhaps we may study it quickly because it is not appropriate to go into everything with much detail in these seminars, these dawrat. But a simple study of this text with some remarks according to my ability will suffice us, inshaAllah. وَصَلَى اللَّهُ جَلَّ وَعَلَى يُفَقِّهْنَا. وَصَلَى اللَّهُ جَلَّ وَعَلَى and يُفَقِّهْنَا فِي الدِّينِ. So we ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to give us comprehension of this religion. وَأَنْ يُثَبِّتَنَا عَلَى صِرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. And that He grants us steadfastness upon His path. Ameen. وَأَنْ يُجَنِّبَنَا وَإِيَّاكُمْ سُبَلَ الْهَوَى وَالضَّلَالِ. And that He distances ourselves from subul al-hawa, from the means in which causes a person to be, lenient towards hawa, desires, والضلال and misguidance. وأن ينفعنا بهذا الكتاب. And that He benefits us by way of this book. وغيره من كتب الإسلام. And likewise, others from that, i.e., ولا سيما كتب العقيدة عقيدة أهل السنة والجماعة, especially the books of Aqidah, the belief of the people of Sunnah and those who stick to the way of the companions. And it reminds me, I think it's Ibn Qayyim, mashallah, he brings a quotation from the Salaf, or I think it might have been he that said this. He said, عليك بالطريق الحق عليك بالطريق الحق ولا تستوحش لقلة السالكين وإياك وطريق الضلال ولا تغتر بكثرة الحالكين. He said, عليك بالطريق الحق. Upon you is the path of guidance. Yeah? ولا تستوحش لقلة السالكين. And do not feel, abandoned or sad due to the small amount of people that traverse the path of truth. Yeah? وإياكم والطريق الباطل. Yeah? And be aware of the طريق الباطل, the path of, falsehood. ولا تغتر بكثرة الحالكين. And do not, be misled by the amount of people that are destroyed. Because the majority are not a proof. وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And if you were to obey the majority upon the earth, you would be misguided from the path of Allah. So it's not about, we're 90% of the ummah, as one person said to me. We're, 30%, you're only 2%. It's not about numbers. Too much statistics and you're crazy. He was one of them. Yeah? It's the point. It's not about numbers. Allah mentioned that. Yeah? The Prophet ﷺ in the tariq, in the path he's left us, is clear. Don't tell me, it's in a cave somewhere and, the scholars are yet to find it. What is this? We forgot the names of the Sahaba, the mainframe got hacked. We don't know the Muhajiruna and the Ansar. This is stupidity. The religion has been preserved, alhamdulillah. تَرَقْتُكُمْ عَلَى بَيْضَاءٍ لَيْلُهَا كَالنَّهَارِهَا لَا يُزِيغُ عَنْهَا إِلَّا حَالِكَ. I've left you upon clear guidance. His night is like his day. No one deviates from it except he who is destroyed. Barakallahu feekum. So, before we kind of read the text, we're going to go into Imam Ahmed, briefly, about who he was, where he was born. So Imam Ahmed, he was born in Rabi' al-Awwal. Imam Ahmed, rahmatullah alayh, he was born in Rabi' al-Awwal and he died in Rabi' al-Awwal. So he was born Rabi' al-Awwal and died in Rabi' al-Awwal. 164 he was born and Tuwaffa 241. So those are things to note down. 164 Rabi' al-Awwal, he died in 241 Hijri. Yeah? And he goes on to say, the explanation over here, I can't remember where I got this from now actually. I think it's Abu Khadija, in fact, hafidhullah ta'ala. So he goes on to say, and this is known from others, such as the great scholars, such as Al-Imam Bukhari, who was born in Shawwal and died in Shawwal, 256. And scholars have stated this, that it is from the amazing affairs of the people of ilm that the month in which they are born coincides with the month in which they die. The month in which they are born coincides with the month they die. And Imam Ahmed, rahmatullah alayhi, he was born an orphan. He was born an orphan and his mother raised him. And while she was pregnant with him, he was born in Baghdad and was raised there and he was educated there. Right? I've also got the chain of narration for who he was. Okay, we won't go into that as of yet, yeah? So, some important things to know, because obviously the praise for Imam Ahmed is like no other in regards to some of what the Salaf has said, like no other. So the Hayat al-Imam Ahmed, Ali al-Madini, who died 235 Hijri, he said Ahmed is our master. He's basically like the scholar of our time. He also said no one has achieved after Allah's messenger. This is a nice point to make mention of as well. Excellent point to make mention of. He said no one achieves what Imam Ahmed achieved. Rahmatullah alayh. So Al-Maymuni, he said to him, not even Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. What, not even Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? And he breaks down why. He goes, Ya Abu Hassan. He replied, not even Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Are you astonished at this saying? He goes on to say. What was the reason behind this saying of Ali al-Madini? He explained it saying, indeed, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, he had helpers, he had ashab, apologies. He had ashab in being helped in his trial. He went for the hurub al-ridda. yeah, the wars of apostasy. He had helpers. As for Imam Ahmed, in his test, he had none. So that's why Shaykh al-Rabi, he brings a manhaj point. He says some people, from people who are scholars, they could be heavily trialed, even more so than the Sahaba, in that particular affair, in the ibtila. But as a whole, the Sahaba are better without any doubt. So as a whole, the Sahaba are better in terms of what they achieved for the religion as a whole. But in one particular affair, an Imam could be trialed more. And he brings this Imam Ahmed as a proof, because Imam Ahmed, rahmatullahi alayhi, he had no helpers in the Hurub al-Ridda, in the apostasy wars. Yeah, he goes, and as for Ahmed, he had no helper, no supporter. Ahmed was alone and isolated in the trial of the Quran, wherein people were compelled to say the Quran was makhluk, created. They were compelled to say it. Ali ibn Madini also said, Allah aided religion. Yeah? He said, Allah aided the religion at the hands of two men. And there is no third, Abu Bakr on the day of apostasy, and Ahmed bin Hanbal on the day of inquisition. Allahu Akbar. There's no doubt, therefore, that Allah established his religion through Ahmed bin Hanbal in his era. Through each and every fitna and trial, Allah raises those who will establish his religion. So the Messenger ﷺ said, يحمل هذا العلم من كل خلف عدوله. So this knowledge in every generation will be carried by the trustworthy ones. Yeah? It will be carried by who? Trustworthy ones. Not the liars, not the ones that say, you know, I had a dream, and you find out, I was just playing around, just to get the people to celebrate Mawlid, for example. Yeah? No, it'll be carried by the trustworthy ones. Yeah? ينفون عنه تهويل الغالين. ينفون عنه تهويل الغالين. These people, these trustworthy people, what will they do? They will negate and refute تهويل الغالين, the fabrications of the extremists. Yes, they will do that. Refute the fabrications of the extremists. وانتحال المبطلين وتأويل الجاهلين. And also, they will do away with the fabrications of the liars and refute the false interpretations of the ignorant. ينفون عنه تأويل الغالين وتحويل تحريف الغالين وانتحال المبطلين وتأويل الجاهلين. They will expel from the distortions of these people, i.e. the extremists, the fabrications and the lies and the interpretations of the ignorant. And then he brings some narrations, narrated from Shafi'i. And then he brings a narration from Al-Muzni, who was the student of Shafi'i, who died 264 Hijri. And he said, the amazing ones of this era, في عصرنا هذا. The first is an Arab, he goes on to say. So he mentions three amazing individuals. The first is an Arab who is unable to make i'rab, which is the grammatical deconstruction of a sentence. The i'rab. He's an Arab, but he's unable to make i'rab, i.e. the grammatical deconstruction of a sentence, or even a word due to his poor grammar. It's Abu Thawr. You know, some people say, he doesn't know Arabic and whatnot, he doesn't understand i'rab, sarf. There were people from the Salaf that were like that. I'm not saying you should aspire to be like that, but if it happens, it happens. But it doesn't mean you're not a person of Sunnah because you don't know these things. So he goes on to say, there are three people who are like, you know, from those who are amazed, he goes on to say. One of them being Abu Thawr, who died 240 Hijri. Yeah, and the second is a non-Arab who never makes a grammatical mistake in the Arabic language. Yeah, Al-Hasan al-Za'farani, who died 260 Hijri. And the third one, a young man who everything he utters is attested to as being correct. And that great scholar is Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal. And there is a witness and praise of a Shafi'i for the people of knowledge. That's why the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he goes on to say in the hadith, وَإِنَّ الْعُلَمَاءَ وَرَثَةَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَإِنَّ الْعُلَمَاءَ وَرَثَةَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ, that the scholars, they are the inheritors of the prophets. Yeah? They inherit knowledge. وَإِنَّ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ لَمْ يُوَرِّثُوا دِنَارًا وَلَا دِرْهَمًا. Yeah? And that the prophets, they don't inherit anything. Yeah? Such as, currency, dinars or dirham. وَوَرِثُوا الْعِلْمَ, and they inherit knowledge. فَمَنْ أَخَذَهُ أَخَذُوا بِوَحَاظٍ or أَخَذُوا بِحَظٍ وَافِرٍ. And whosoever, inherits this, then he has, gained an abundant portion. So this is the reality of knowledge. That's what the Anbiya leave for us, and the scholars inherit it. I think it was one sheikh. He said, he gave this really nice example. He said, so and so from amongst the eminence and rich, he's handing out his waratha, his inheritance in the masjid. So everybody went. Abu Hurraira, that's it. Paraphrasing it. He's, given out his inheritance in the masjid. Everyone kind of attended. And they saw no wealth. And then they realized, it was the knowledge. So when it comes to the inheritance, in terms of that which is maddi, physical, people turn up. When it comes to the, inheritance of the prophets and messengers, not many. That's why some of the Salaf, they said, al-ilm wasila li kulli fadila. Al-ilmu wasila li kulli fadila. Meaning, knowledge is a means to all things virtuous. Knowledge is a means to all things virtuous. So one of the contemporaries of Imam Ahmed, he narrated some lines of poetry. He said, رَحَدْتُ أَطْلَبُ أَصْلِ الْعِلْمِ مُجْتَهِدًا وَزِينَةُ الْمَرْءِ فِي الدُّنْيَا لَأَحَادِيث لا يطلب العلم إلا باذل ذكر وليس يبغضه إلا المخانيث لا تعجبن بمال سوف تتركه فإنما هذه الدنيا مواريث. He goes, رحلت أطلب أصل العلم مجتهدا. I went out seeking the great foundations of knowledge. وزينة المرء في الدنيا لأحاديث, and the adornment of a man in this world is hadith, the knowledge of the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام. لا يطلب العلم إلا باذل ذكر وليس يبغضه إلا المخانيث. No one, searches for knowledge except a true man, and only the effeminate. Those men that are women like. They're the ones that hate it. Yeah. لا تعجبن بمال سوف تتركه فإنما هذه الدنيا مواريث. So don't be astonished at this worldly life, from those physical things that you have. For verily one day it will be inherited by others. And then he goes on to say, in breaking down the reality of knowledge and its حقيقة, كثير بن قيس said, كنت جالسا مع أبي درداء. He said, I was sitting with Abi Darda, that's Abu Darda, في مسجد دمشق فجاءه رجل فقال, in the masjid of Damishq, and a man came to him saying, Ya Abu Darda, inni jituka min Medinatir Rasul, verily I've come to you from the city of the Messenger alayhi salatu wassalam. لحديث بلغني أنك تحدثه عن رسول الله ما جئت لحاجة. Verily, I've heard that, it's come to you a hadith that you narrate. I haven't come to you for any other reason. قال فإني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, verily I heard the Messenger of Allah عليه الصلاة والسلام say. There's various narrations to this, or alfaz, very hadith. من سلك طريقا, whosoever traverses a path, يطلب فيه علما سلك الله به طريقا من طرق الجنة. So whosoever traverses a path for knowledge, seeking obviously within it knowledge, then Allah will allow him to traverse upon the path towards the many ways in which you can ascertain paradise. There's another narration, من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه العلم سهر الله طريقا إلى الجنة. Whosoever traverses a path towards knowledge, Allah will ease and facilitate that very trip, or that gateway to paradise. And then he goes on to say in the hadith, وَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ لَتَضَعُ أَجْنِحَتَهَا رِضًا لِلطَّالِبِ الْعِلْمِ. Verily, the malaika, the angels, they spread their wings out. The angels, they spread their wings out in humility for the seeker of knowledge. Out of pleasure. وإن العالم ليستغفر له من في السماوات ومن في الأرض الحيطان في جوف الماء. And then it goes on to say, the inhabitants of heavens, or the inhabitants of the heavens and the earth, and even the fish in the ocean, they will seek forgiveness for the scholar. وإن الفضل العالم على العابد كفضل القمر ليلة البدر على سائر الكواكب. And the superiority of the scholar over the devout worshipper is like that of the moon on the night when it is full over the rest of the stars. And that's the reality. I remember there was one question by this deviant, brother, may Allah guide him and guide us. You guys say the scholars are better than Mujahideen. And the scholars have answered this. The scholars are better than Mujahideen in the particular affair where they uphold the religion from ascertaining knowledge and spreading it. Whereas the Mujahid, no doubt, if he's sincere, he goes to paradise, but he fights for himself. Whereas the scholar fights for everybody else and himself. And that is the fadl, the virtue of the scholar. Verily, he fights the battle of making bayan al-haq, clarifying the truth. Whereas the Mujahid is singular in what he does. No doubt he can benefit others, but the scholar, his works benefit throughout time. So when you teach knowledge and you have knowledge, like you all know the narration of Ali bin Abi Talib, when he was asked why knowledge is more preferred than wealth, because as for knowledge, it protects you. As for wealth, you protect it. And what we'll do there, inshallah ta'ala, we'll just mention the first principle. And then we'll stop bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So he goes on to say, DaaruSsunnah indana, the firm principles of the Sunnah which are with us. This is Imam Ahmed saying this now. التمسك بما كان عليه أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم is holding firm to that which the messenger or the companions of the messenger were upon. والاقتداء بهم, and following them. وترك بدع وكل بدعة فهي ضلالة. And also, yes, shunning and rejecting innovation. For every innovation is misguidance. So inshallah ta'ala, I believe next week we'll make this muqaddimah very short and precise. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala, next week when we carry on with the studies, we'll cover more points. And we'll go through some of the ta'rifat, some of the definitions of innovation. Yeah? And obviously the opposite of bid'ah is sunnah. We learn the sunnah so we know what innovation is. And likewise, when we learn what innovation is and how it materializes or manifests in the ummah, we see the value of the sunnah. We see the value of the sunnah. Yeah? So, I think, is there anything else I wish to mention? نعم ونكتفي بهذا القدر إن شاء الله وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما حياكم الله بارك الله فيكم